I am going to tell you something that when you hear it is going to change completely what you do this week. You do not need an audience. Say that again with me. I do not need an audience. You do not need thousands of followers. You do not need a viral reel. You do not need a perfect Instagram grid. You do not need a website. You do not need an email list with 2,000 people to make your first $500. You need 50 people who already trust you. And they are right now in your phone. You did not see this coming because for the last 5 years, every business person on the internet and social media has been telling you to grow your audience first. Build the followers, build the reach, build the brand, then maybe someday monetize. And the advice is not wrong for some businesses. It is just not for yours. It is wrong for where you are right now. So today I'm going to actually give you the math, the actual list, the actual people from where your first $500 are going to come. And by the end of this episode, you are going to know exactly where to find your first sales. So stay with me. Welcome to Freedom to Follow. I am Salime. If this is your first time here, this is a podcast for believers who want to build digital businesses for one reason: to fund their obedience, that create that kind of margin that lets you say yes to God when He says, go, give, stay, plant, write, send, train, serve, whatever your calling might be. For over 20 years, I have been building digital businesses and digital platforms, and I am here to save you all the mistakes that I've made and hand you the frameworks to help you build something that puts income where your calling is. Everything we talk about today comes with a free exercise waiting for you at latinpreneurs.com/the vault. Now, if you're coming back from last week, welcome back. You have your mission sentence, you have the evidence file, and you have the money beliefs mirror with all the lies on one column and the truth of the Bible on the other. Now, we are going to do the things those 3 pages have been preparing you to do. So let's get into it. Last week, we talked about money, and money is very important. The beliefs or money are super important. I want to take you to a moment that changed something inside of me. A moment I have not really talked a lot about, or at least not the way it happened. Rwanda. You have heard me mention that my family and I are going around the world for a year, learning from the global church throughout this past year. We have 7 weeks to go, and we're staying here in Oregon for a whole month, and I'm very excited. But one of the countries that shaped what Latinpreneurs is Rwanda. I had been invited to teach by a friend a live seminar there. It was a group of women, of believers for 2 hours who, brought their notebook. For a long time, behind the scenes, I had helped friends in the Christian world build their digital platforms, their digital businesses, quietly, without charging, sometimes charging, but really out of the love, out of the conviction that what they were doing actually mattered. Friend who needed structuring her teaching videos, I would jump up on Zoom and walk her through it. A friend launching a Christian podcast, I would, help her or him think about the funnel, the email sequence, the offers page. A pastor's wife wanting to put her Bible studies online, I would help her pick the platform and help her set up the back end. A ministry that needed to figure out how to take donations digitally, I would map it out for them. Friends, sisters, brothers in Christ, people doing real good kingdom work who needed help in the technical side and could not afford to hire someone on the side. So I've been doing this for years, hours and hours of work. Again, some free, some paid, over the course of many years. And in the back of my head, the whole time, there was this, voice. It was not that ¿Quién te crees que eres that we talked about a couple of episodes ago. It was a different voice. It was saying, Salime, you are going to do this for more people one day, not just your friends. Because if you know me, you know a couple of things about me. I love theology, missions, and business. Reformadas is where theology starts, and Latinpreneurs is where missions and business meet and makes it possible. So for a couple of years, that voice was just there. I did not act on it. I didn't tell really anyone, maybe a couple of people, but it didn't have really a name. It didn't have a website. It was just a growing awareness that the Lord was putting in my heart that I had been doing something for free for people who I really love, and that I was supposed to do something more with it at a bigger scale. But it stayed like really abstract, like, yes, someday. But then I went to Rwanda. In this room, small fluorescent lights, folding chairs, a whiteboard that did not what stayed in the easel, and this woman coming in. Some of them in work clothes from that day, a few older women that were there trying to see if this was possible for them, for their age. Total, it was 15 women, all of them believers, some of them had already started their own small businesses. A couple of them were in ministry roles. There were a couple of stay-at-home moms wondering if like digital business was even possible for someone in their season. So I didn't have like a fancy side deck. I had like literally a whiteboard, marker and an outline that I had written long time ago, that I had. And I taught them the very first version of what is now this podcast. I walked them through the math of building a digital business that falls a calling, like the 10 maker model, 90-10 statistics, about indigenous work and how I was excited to help them, fund their calling, their obedience. And I told them that how to start their very first digital businesses that was able to fund their obedience. It was a seminar, a live seminar for 2 hours. That was the plan. Well, we went almost 4 hours. Nobody wanted to leave. The questions came in waves. Salime, do you mean me? Salime, can I do this with what I already know in this aspect? How do I start with my computer at home? How do I, do this while in ministry? Can I do this with children? How do I structure it? How do I use social media? All the same voices that are probably in your head right now. And I want to tell you what happened to me internally while I was in that room. That voice that had been a whisper in the back of my head for years became loud. These women sitting in front of me with their notebooks open, asking the same questions I have been helping, my friends with for years behind the scenes, out of love. They were not just my friends now. These were women I did not know from a country that I was visiting and learning from, who needed exactly what I had knowledge in. In that room, something in my mind and my heart turned on. And I saw that the Lord was asking now to do this for women that I had never met in public, on the record, for real. That was the moment that Latinpreneurs actually started. I mean, if you remember, this was just supposed to be follow me along the ride, along the world, learning from the global church. It was called Salime Global, which I hated because it felt it was about me. But that week, the Lord gave me this name, Latinpreneurs, Latinos and Entrepreneurship. The domain was available and I bought it. And I recorded the very first podcast episode after that day that I was in Rwanda. Again, after this quiet behind the scenes idea had been boiling up. Now the seminar ended and 6 of these women came up to me separately and said almost, the exact sentence. Salime, I need more of this. Can you do this with me? One after one, coaching me after you go back or after you leave. 6. Now I had not announced anything. I had not pitched anything. I had no website. Remember, I had no international payments. I didn't have a contract. I didn't have a course. I had a marker, whiteboard, and 20 years of digital business experience behind me. And just all the experience of having helped my friends throughout the years. Now I had 6 women asking me literally to charge them for what I knew so that they could continue to learn digital business. So I went back to where we were staying, the little house that we were staying, and I almost did not do it. But I started to build something more formal. I almost let still that quiet voice saying that Christians don't ask for money and that this was Rwanda and how dare I? But I did not. What I did was this. I wrote them back over the next 2 days and I told them, hey, I have 3 spots. This is where we're going to, meet. This is a place. I had no idea if the number was right. I hadn't done the research in the market. I had not asked anyone. I literally just picked up a number on the spot that felt fair for the work and honest with my time. 3 of these women said yes within the next week. And that's the first 3 women who actually gave Latinpreneurs money. I had charged some of other people other friends, other clients before, but this is the first time that Latinpreneurs, under the umbrella of Latinpreneurs, had made money from a 2-hour seminar in Rwanda from women who were sitting in folding chairs under a flickering light, and they decided that they trusted me enough to give me their money. Again, I didn't have a strategy, I didn't have a funnel, I did not have a launch sequence. All I had was this women, 15 women, and the years of work behind me that had prepared me to be exactly in that room. 15 people, 6 interested and 3 buyers, 20% conversion. Now, most marketers on the internet would kill for these numbers. And they would tell you it required a sales funnel and high converting page and 3 weeks of email sequences. It does not. It really required people who already trusted me and an honest conversation and a willingness to send that message that says, hey, here's what I have, here's what it costs, here's how to start. And I want you to hear me on this. This woman in Rwanda did not just trust me because of 2 hours in this room with doing a seminar. They trusted me because of the years of work I had been doing for men and women like them. They had heard from it through a friend there, and she had told them. And this is true with you too. That people who are going to trust you when you offer your first thing are the people who you have been helping quietly for years. That friend that you have been advising, that cousin you have been answering all these questions for, the coworker who keeps coming to your desk with the same questions, the mom from church who calls you when she does not know what to do. All this work has been preparing you for this. You, again, just have not framed it as a business. But that list of people who trust in you is already there. And what we're going to do today is going to be write it down. So here's a concept. You do not need an audience. You need 50 people who already trust you. It is called the first 50, and it is the most underrated truth in digital business. The internet, social media in particular, has trained you to believe that you need a huge audience to make money. The advice is built for influencers. Influencers sells ads, and ads require eyeballs. So an influencer's job is to grow the audience as much as humanly possible because that is how she gets paid. But digital business is not being an influencer. Again, you are a Titus 2 woman or man. If we go back 2 episodes ago, you are someone one step ahead helping someone who's one step behind. You are selling something specific to someone specific. You do not need more eyeballs, you just need trust. And trust is not built by reach. Trust is built by relationship, by being known, by having helped someone before, by having shown up, by being in someone's life enough that when you say, hey, here's what I do, here's what it costs, they say yes because they already believe in you. 50 people. This is the number. Now you could ask, why 50, Salime? Because the math is really, really truthful. Of 50 people who trust you, when you make a real offer, about 10 will reply with interest. And out of those 10, about 2 will actually buy. So 50 names, 10 replies, 2 buyers. 2 buyers at $250 each is $500. That is your first 500. That is the math. You do not need to find new people. You need to write down the names of people who you already have. And that is the work that we're going to do this week. So I want to walk you through the 3 concentric circles, 3 pools of people you are going to pull from to build this list of 50. So we're going to do the closest in to the further out. The closer in are the warmer trust, the more likely, the people more likely to say yes. So circle 1, you write down the names of people who you have helped for free. This is like literally your warmest circle. These are the warmest leads, the names that need to go first in your page. Who has called you with a question that you took the time to answer, who has shown up in your house, in your messages, in your DMs, asking for help for the very thing that you are now going to build a business, a digital business around. So who is that friend who called you last year when she got the diagnosis of her child, or that cousin who asked you to walk her through her resume, or that coworker who's been picking your brain to handle a difficult boss, or I don't know, the mom at church who asked young advice for your king, or organization, or the friend of a friend, like whoever it is, write them down. And I want you to be specific, not like I have helped people. No, put names, first names, last names, phone numbers if you have them. The emails would be even better. Any way to contact them. The actual humans who are on this planet walking right now who already know what you do and that what you do is worth their time. If you can think of fewer than 10, expand backwards. Go back 2 to 3 years. Open your text messages and scroll down. You are going to find the names you forgot you had. This circle alone usually produces between 50 and 25 names for most of the people, for most of the women that I've worked with. That's your first circle. Circle 2 is the people who ask you about your work. And this is your second warmest lead. A little slower, a little slightly further out, but very close. Who has noticed something you do well and commented on? Who has said, oh, you're so good at this? Who has tagged you in a post and said like, hey, this made me think of you? Who has asked you, more than once, how do you do that? Who are you going to be tempted to skip in this circle because they have not quite yet asked you for help, but they have noticed what you have done, what you are doing. They noticed. They have named your skill out loud. They have made it public, at least to you, because this is a much warmer signal, a much warmer lead than what you think. So when you go and offer them the thing that you're building, you do not have to convince them that you're qualified. They already see it. They have already, they understand what you're saying. They just have not given the chance to act on it. Now the circle usually adds another 10 to 15 names. Circle 3, the people who would say yes if you asked. And this circle is the outer circle. It's the least warm leads of the first two, but it's still trust-based. It's in your group chats, in your church directory, in your kids' school parents group, in your work team, in your LinkedIn first connection list. The men and women who you went to college with, men and women in your Bible groups, the women in your or women and men in your industries association, your professional network from the last 10 years, people that might not have directly asked for your help, but they know you. They have seen you show up. They have maybe eaten at your table or sat with you in a meeting, or their kids or their parents. There's a baseline of trust that you do not have to build. Okay, now you are not going to send a sales pitch to them. You are just going to put them on this list, the circle of 50. Now, once you have this 50 names, the math becomes very simple. But here's what most entrepreneurs, most Latinpreneurs miss. You're not going to write a sales message from scratch. You're writing a message that comes straight out of the work that you have already done this season. That is why it's important to do it week by week. So look at what's already in your hands. You have your mission sentence from episode 6. You have, your person, your persona, your problem, the result, your missional why. You have all these things, the men or women that you already know. You have your problem statement from episode 5, the one thing that this men or women that you're going to be helping want to solve. So you have also like the evidence file from episode 7, like the list of what you know and what you've experienced. So you are literally ready. Every single piece of the message that you are about to send to this first 50, we've already been working on it. It is in your hand right now if you have been doing all the Latinpreneur.com, the vault exercises that are free for you. So the message you're going to send is not a clever copywriting move. It is a direct transmission of that work. So here's what it's going to sound like. And I want you to pay attention because this is going to feel almost too simple. So you're going to start with your mission sentence broken into a sentence that the person who you're texting can hear in your voice. So it's not going to be a formal way that you maybe wrote in the card, the conversational version. So if your mission sentence reads like, I help moms in the first 90 days after their child's learning diagnosis to read, understand, and negotiate the first educational plan, that conversational version you're going to send your friend is going to be something like, hey, you know how I have been, helping moms through those first 90 days of diagnosis of whatever it is. I am turning it into an actual formal business. This is your mission sentence spoken. Then you're going to describe the woman you're for from your persona portrait by name, but the shape of her life. it is for the mom who just got that diagnosis last week and feels like she's sitting in meetings where everybody speaks a language that she doesn't. Now, this is your persona, your avatar in spoken word. Afterwards, you're going to name the problem from your problem statement. I help her understand what the school is actually proposing, what she has a right to push back on, and what to ask before she signs anything. That is your problem statement in a spoken way. And then, and only then, you say, this is the offer. I am running it as a one-on-one session over the next 2 months. I have 3 spots and it's going to be, $250. Then you make it easy. If you know someone who is in this exact spot right now, or if this is you, I would love to talk. Just text me back, text me back and I will send you all the details. That's it. The message is your mission sentence, your persona, your problem, your offer, and the invitation. And every part of this you already have from the free exercises in Latinpreneurs, the vault. So you're not making anything up tonight. You wrote it over the past 6 weeks. Now, the reason this works is because this message does not feel like a pitch. It feels like a friend telling another friend what she has been working on, because that's what it is. You're not selling something abstract to strangers. You're naming it in your own voice, what God has been quietly preparing you to do to people who already know you well enough to believe you, and then you will let them respond. Now, let's remember the math. Of 50, about 10 will reply with interest. Of those 10, about 2 people will buy. 2 buyers at $250 each, $500. Your first $500 from a list of 50 people who already trust you, carried by a message that has come out of the work that you have already done. That is how it works. This is the entire foundation of the kind of business we are building. This is literally how you start your digital business. And the deeper, the more exact the message for their specific situation will lead you on how you handle the payment, and how you get all this first testimonials and your first referrals. And this is what will come afterwards. And we're going to talk more about it as we get closer to, to couple seasons down the line. But your job right now is to start with literally the first sales. So obviously the mission statement that I just stated was from Gabriela, and we're going to come to her one more time, because you know who she is, the teacher, her persona, her problem, the mission sentence, the week with his suegra, the money believes mirror that she filled out that we talked about last week. Well, Gabriela also did her first 50, and she thought she had no list. She told me at the beginning that she had been in a classroom for 12 years, and her world was her family, her church, and her coworkers. She said, I do not have a Facebook following, I do not have Instagram, I do not have an email list, I don't have an audience. Well, I told her, Gabriela, writing it down anyway. So she sat down, and started filling this 3 circles. Circle 1, the people she had helped for free, and she came down with 14 names. Not bad. 14 moms over the last 3 years who had called her, texted her, or pulled her aside at school events because they had just gotten their children's diagnosis and did not know what to do. 14, not bad. Now in circle 2 is people who asked her about her work. She added around 11 more names. Other teachers, 2 principals, a few parents who had things like, oh, you're so good with this children. Have you thought about doing this on the side? She found 11 more. Now circle 3, people who would have said yes if she asked. She added 38 names. There was a Facebook group from a special education program at her university. The moms in church who had kids with IEP programs. Some neighbors, some coworkers, the Christmas card list. When she added them all up, the first 50 was actually 63. That's not bad. 63 from a woman who had told me 2 weeks earlier that she did not have a list. Now she sent her message that month, and it was just some of them were text, some of them were WhatsApp voice notes, some of them were private Facebook messages in the special ed group, and out of them, 11 replied with interest. Not bad. And 4 bought her first mini program in the first 30 days. That was $987 that I told you on episode 6. That money became the proof that this could work. That money that 14 months later gave her the courage to give notice to her school district without an audience, but with this list. And so if you're thinking to yourself, Salime, I do not have any list, let me tell you, you do. I made you something for this. It's called your first 50 map. and it is waiting for you for free at latinpreneurs.com/the vault. Here's what it is: 2 pages, 3 circles. Page 1 is the map, the 3 concentric circles run for you with space inside each one for the names. Remember, the inner circle is the warmest one. You write the names of people who you have helped for free. Again, specific people, real names, contact information. In the middle circle, you will write the names of people who have asked you about your work, people who have noticed, people who have said like, oh, you're so good at this. And then the outer circle, you're going to write the names from your existing network, group chats, church, LinkedIn, work, school, family, I don't know, the people who already know you. Now, the second part is the math. The math we just walked through together. 15 names, 10 replies to buyers. And that should be, like you have to research the price, and we can talk about pricing and the whole, strategy of pricing. But you have to do your own math, your own price. So you will have a specific revenue sitting in your hands. I want to tell you something. Most women, when they sit down to do this, they not to get like the 50 in the first sit. They might get 25 or 30, and that's fine. Like, you're going to start, you're going to put it down, you're going to come back for it tomorrow, and the next day you're going to look in your phone, in your school, in your text messages, you're going to scan your contacts. You are going to remember the women who were part of your old job or had coffee with like last spring or whatever. The moms from like the soccer team, the friends of your sister, because 50 is the goal, but it's going to be slowly. So you'll have a week. By next Monday, when this next episode drops, you'll have 50 names. So I want you to go to latinpreneurs.com/the vault. If you're already part of Latinpreneurs, latinpreneurs.com/login and get your first 50 map, 50 names, and you have 1 week. latinpreneurs.com/the vault. Before I let you go, for the last 8 weeks, we have been working on what is true about you. From like that feeling that you had in the parking lot that there has to be a better way, to the skills that you have that were hiding in plain sight, to the hours that, will make you be able to do this, to the people who you are sent to help, to the problem you were meant to solve, to the sentence, that names what you will be doing, and to the evidence that pushes back against that imposter syndrome, and to the truth of how money fuels ministry. And it has all been about internal work. But in this episode, for the first time in this season, this work is starting to move outside. So the first 50 map is not a journal. It is not a reflection. It's not like self-assessment. It is a list of real human beings that are alive today that already trust you. And so by next episode, when you sit again with me, I want you to have this list on your hands with 50 real names, phone numbers, emails. Because next week, we are going to take that list and use it. I am going to teach you the smallest possible launch, without a website, with a funnel or a fancy launch sequence, with a Google document and 3 voice notes. This is how we're going to turn 50 names into a real offer with a real check, with real money. But none of that matters if this list does not exist. So today or tomorrow, you're going to do this list. Every day, check it out. Every day, sit down with it and get to the first 50 on your paper. So go to latinpreneurs.com/the vault or latinpreneurs.com/login and download your first 50 map so that we can start understanding how digital business funds your calling. I'll wait for you and I'll see you next week. This is Salime, and this is Freedom to Follow by Latinpreneurs. Goodbye.